I'm going to just start, I think. Should we start without him and see what happens?
You can just be like a surprise entry. He'll come swooping back in.
I know. That's why he's done it. He wants the big,
He does, yeah. No, I think
he's the red carpet treatment. Like
he's playing for drama, really.
Yeah. He does love the drama. I gotta say that. Good actor, isn't he, in church?
Oh, brilliant actor. Anything you want playing, Moses' sister or Pharaoh's wife, anything,
Wow.
Female characters mainly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, of the range of like biblical characters to choose from, you went specifically for Moses' sister and Pharaoh's wife, and right?
Yeah. You can play it all. Play it all.
He's back now.
Hello.
Hello.
False alarm.
Oh no. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Team Talk. Really great to have you with us. Hi Em, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. I'm super excited for this episode. For everyone about to listen to the episode, today we've got Chris, Meiz and Laura from Coedpenmaen Community Church. So they're based in Pontypridd. And what we're going to be talking about today is the fact that they're all quite a young leadership team, which is maybe slightly different to what we're used to seeing. And they all come together to lead the church during lockdown, which is a massive challenge in itself. And we kind of spoke about everything from being a millennial to leading a church to Lord of the Rings, and everything in between, really. So, I think it's going to be a good message.
We covered life, didn't we? That was the theme, life. Yes, we got it all covered. I like the way you said for everyone about to listen to the podcast. Are there people who, this is almost like a sort of a Tenant time travel thing, people who have listened to the podcast? I don't know, maybe there's another group of people out there.
Yeah, who knows? So welcome Laura, Meiz and Chris. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to have a really interesting discussion or conversation this morning about millennial leadership. I think you're in a really unique situation with your current setup and at your local church in Ponty. So I'm excited to get into the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Really appreciate Chris being here because he's got a really busy day today, I know. So we just appreciate your time, Chris.
Well, I know you've just come ahead of a new washing machine, so that's where I rate you, just ahead.
I'll take it. I'll take that. Amazing. Well, one thing that we always do as we just kick off chatting to people is to ask them about their sort of team, like the people that have shaped you and inspired you. So if you had to pick like one or two people to be on like Team Laura and Team Meiz, who would you pick?
I go first with that one then.
Go on, then.
I think I can't really pick one out of the family unit. So I'm going to say the family unit as a whole. Obviously, your family has shaped who I am and taught me so much. So that they such a support to myself and my ministry. And then as far as like spiritually speaking, I'd have to say our previous minister Doug really helped. I would say we've got that sort of like Paul and Timothy relationship where he really like fathered me in the faith and really helped me on that journey to discern what God was calling me to in my life, really, and continues to be a great friend and mentor. So I would say spiritually speaking, I would have to say Doug, and then obviously my family continue to be a great support and are always a strong team for me to fall back on and sort of give me strength and encouragement. So yeah.
Amazing.
Go on, Chris.
I mean, it might sound a bit cliche, but again, family have been a huge thing. My dad and my granddad, both ministers, following in their footsteps, I guess. My parents, ultimately, they've been great influences on my life from being little. I think the biggest thing I could say that's been the biggest influence is that who they've been in public is who they are in private, and only myself and my sister can prove that, I guess. But there was never a sense of, oh, they perform on a Sunday and then they're not very nice in the week. Who they were and who they are in church and leading church and being pastors is who they are in the home, and that's been the biggest example to me, really.
Amazing.
I'm going to be exactly the same and say my family is boring, isn't it? But no, my family have been amazing. And, you know, it's always been that thing where we always encourage each other and we celebrate the little wins. And I think growing up in that environment, it's that kind of, it was instilled in me that, you know, you can do anything. Not anything, because, you know, if I went on the X Factor, I wouldn't win, because it'd be terrible. But it's that kind of self-belief that's been fostered in our family. But with both my parents, they're both Christians, and, you know, being raised in that Christian home just gave me a really firm foundation in Jesus, which, while it was my parents' faith, you know, even though I've inherited it, it was still my own faith, because I sort of go into my room and I pray as a kid. My parents didn't know I was doing it, but it's just watching their example and really following on from that. So it was my family, just by how encouraging they are. And I think then, as same as Meiz, when he said Doug, our previous minister, so with Doug, he was the one who put me in the pulpit. He was the one who sort of encouraged me to go for ministry. And without him, I don't think I'd be here today. So he's been a huge inspiration to me. And I'd have to say Meiz's dad as well, because Meiz's dad was the youth leader when I first joined the church, when I was in the youth. He was my youth leader then, and sort of, you know, just sitting with him and the youth group, and the way he'd sort of talk about Jesus in such a natural way, it was just really encouraging. And I think that's something I've taken from my ministry as well, just sharing Jesus, but in, like, you know, in a normal way. So yeah, I think those people will be in my team. And my husband as well. I haven't mentioned my husband, but he's, you know, he's recently become my husband. So we've been married for 3 months, but so far he's doing great. So
I don't know if he was expecting a review this morning, but it's good that it was a positive review. Are you a terrible singer, Laura? Is that why the X Factor is it appalling?
It's not great. It's not great. No.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So don't get me to sing. It'd be awful. Your windows will suffer.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being with us. Obviously, those people have been, like, you know, part of the team that have shaped you, and now you've come together to be a team. Chris has got to go now. As he were just getting on to question 1. Say no, Chris. Say, I'm not doing it.
It's so important, Chris. Jesus, or your washing machine?
All good.
We'll edit that bit out, I'm sure. So tell us a bit about the journey to you guys being a team working together now in leadership at the church.
I guess I'll take this again to start with, if you guys could add anything I've forgotten. But for myself and Laura, we've been there at the church for years. I mean, I've never been a member at any other church. I've been in Coedpenmaen since I was born, so I just happened to be there. Then Laura joined when we were like 12, 13, something like that. So it's been a few years. So we were already in situ. And when sort of God called us into ministry, just felt that we were to serve at Coedpenmaen. But for myself, I run a music ministry as well. So I sort of get a few plates spinning at the same time. And then in the last few years, we were looking for a minister to join us. And then we sort of was thinking about Chris as a church and chatting to him, and he was excited about this prospect of working together. And then we thought, as 3 maybe younger people, it would be good to try this team ministry dynamic where we can all use our gifts and support each other. You know, we've all got strengths and weaknesses, so there's no lead pastor as such. We all share that leadership role. And yeah, for the last few months, that's what we've been doing. Started out online, obviously, because Chris joined in March or something, I think, was it Chris? And then
February. So obviously you've got That month mustn't have been great that first month. He forgot.
He didn't do anything. No. So yeah, the first few months was all online, but since Easter we've been back in the building and really enjoying it, and it's going well. So I think that's a vague sort of explanation. I think we've pretty much covered it, guys. Anything to add?
No, you did well, Meiz. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, very good.
But what were you playing at in February, Chris? You just couldn't be bothered.
That's just my apologies, Chris.
In fact, my first meeting actually was like the last week of January, so it's even another month that he's obviously Meiz just forgets. Obviously,
I did yesterday, so that's on
me. You mentioned you all have like individual gifting, and from the small part that I've experienced of how you all work together as a leadership team, how would you say your gifting and abilities kind of come together? Like, as you said, there's no like front man kind of thing, but all kind of work together as one unit.
Yeah. You want to say something, Laura?
No, I was just thinking you go for it. It was just a really good question.
All right, I thought you were speaking. I thought you were answering, but you're just telling me. They're just telling that it was a good question.
Great question.
Thanks.
It was a good question.
It was a good question.
We kind of, as part of our official role, we kind of look after separate parts. So Laura looks after the kids and the youth and families. Meiz looks after the worship side of stuff, and then I'm kind of looking after the other bits, I guess, the wider kind of things that go on. But yeah, we all, I think, would complement each other's giftings. I think that's certainly the case. We've all got different styles of preaching, which works well. So it means that people can get something different out of the way that each of us would teach and preach, I think. But yeah, again, myself and Meiz have both got the musical side of stuff, which Laura maybe has admitted she doesn't have so much of. But yeah, we certainly work well along each other, and ultimately we're all passionate about Jesus. And if you use your gifts for that, there's nothing you can really do wrong. Like, you just give it a go, and we get some things wrong. Sometimes we might say the wrong thing, and Laura can share a couple of the things she said, which have been hilarious at times in regards to church being a prison and other things like that. Yeah, we have fun together. We look out for one another. We realized through being quite young, I guess, in terms of ministry life, all 30 and 31. I think I'm the oldest. Am I the oldest?
You're the oldest, yeah.
So in terms of age, you might say that's quite young, but in terms of experience, we've actually got a good few years of experience under our belt. So we know what it's like to be in ministry and in church leadership, and the things to look out for as well are really important. But we're certainly blessed in terms of how God has gifted each of us, and we just want to use that to advance His kingdom. And right now, that's at Coedpenmaen, and it's been great for 6 months, 7 months, whatever it's been, working together. And yeah, but any of you guys want to add to that?
No, I've always wanted to work in team ministry, so it was kind of a real blessing then when the team came together in the church that I was already situated in, and the church that I love serving. And to work with these guys who are actually my friends as well was brilliant. And yeah, it's just nice that somebody will see something perhaps in a situation that somebody else won't see, and then Meiz might see something I've totally overlooked, Chris might overlook something I've seen, and it's kind of nice to have those three voices together with three different life experiences, three different sets of views, and I think that's really good. So then when you sort of come together, I guess it's almost like a richness there as well in that team ministry. And I think I just love working as part of a team. I like people, I like working with people, and it's nice that actually there's not just one person who has to take the burden of everything, because that can be very taxing on one person. So it's nice to have to be in this team dynamic and really share that responsibility then, and I think that's something I've really valued in these 7 months.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who said it. I don't know even if we know who said it originally. There's a great quote about it's amazing what people can do if they don't mind who gets the credit.
Yeah.
And I think there's something that, like, you discover that in team, don't you? That it doesn't matter who did it, but as a unit, you're stronger. You bring more as a team than you do individually.
Yeah, so true, so true.
You mentioned. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, you mentioned earlier about, Chris starting back in January or February, but really getting going in March. And obviously that was, pandemic time, So in terms of leadership, you're immediately, as a young team, as a young team together, thrust into the challenge of leading through crisis, really. So how did you find that as a team together? What are some of the stuff that you found helped you, the new stuff that you started, or what helped you through that?
Yeah, I mean, what's been really good, I think, particularly with church in the world of COVID-19, is the fact that, and I was thinking about it earlier, or actually I've been thinking about it for months, is the fact that church has really left the building, by going online. And I think even before the pandemic, before I even knew what COVID-19 was, it was always that thing in my house, like, okay, well, how are we going to reach people outside? And sort of then, going online, that's really been, we've taken the church out into the community. So people perhaps are on Facebook, and that's people's public sphere, I guess. So people are logging on, they're thinking, oh, I could watch that, see that's on Facebook, see what that's about. But something that Chris introduced, so as we started the ministry team in February, it was his idea to do something called a Sunday night chat, which you pick a topic, and it was usually quite a controversial topic, so you kind of get people to watch it. So, we talk about it from a Christian perspective and discuss it as a three. And that was great. And those videos have had pretty good views. And I think what's been great about that is that people have come into the church because they've seen Sunday night chat. And I think it's just nice to have that kind of conversation with three people, just discussing issues. And disagreeing as well on some of it, because I think, there would be times where we'll have a different view on something, and you'll see in the comments people going, oh, well, I think this, or I think that. So it's getting people engaging with the gospel and really engaging in their faith as well, and thinking, okay, well, this is what I've been told to believe, but what do I actually believe? What does the Bible say? What does Jesus say? And I think that's been really good. But that's something that Chris introduced, and I think that's been really a good thing in this pandemic, in terms of, I guess, encouraging people to come into the church and engaging with church.
Yeah, definitely. I think moving online was such like a challenge at first, for especially like local churches. If you think of big global churches, they already kind of had those resources because they were already putting stuff online. But yeah, for kind of local churches, it was a bit of a, how do we do this and what does it look like? And I think it was back Easter time when you guys first opened, and I came down with Alice and Naz to your service, and it was so good. And I remember Alice saying like, oh, it's the first time like they've done a service in person. And I was like, what? Like everything just worked. Like you could have sworn you'd been doing it for years. Like you all just worked so well together. And I was even more baffled by the fact that it was the first time some of the congregation was even meeting Chris or seeing him in person. But you would never have thought that, because it just kind of, it was already, there's a sense of like unity in the church, which is amazing. But what was it like for you, Chris, kind of stepping into like that leadership role, and you don't even know like what your congregation looks like, or like who's in it and what the church is like?
Yeah, it's a great question, that is, because it's tough, and I guess still is, because I say to Laura and to Meiz and to others that I know well, when people come in fact I did it to Meiz last Sunday, I think, there was a couple of people came in, and I was like, before I go over there and say welcome, we're so glad you've joined us, can you just let me know if these haven't been members for like 15 years or something? Because I just don't know, because some people still aren't confident in coming back to the building. Yeah. Some people have been online, but you see comments. Some people watch a lot of what we've done online, comment an awful lot, but I have no idea what they look like. So then you're like, oh, lovely to meet you. And they're like, meet you? I've been talking to you on all your commenting on all of the videos you've been doing. So yeah, it's always a bit awkward, but I just get on with it. We're all a bit awkward in church sometimes. You just got to say, nice to meet you. And as we've all done, you introduce yourself to somebody and they say, we chatted 2 weeks ago. Like, what are you on about? But no, it is a challenge. And I think, when you're kind of trying to lead and to preach and to lead discussions, or you join in like socials, we did quizzes, we did all sorts, and you're kind of looking on, and me and my wife Justine are kind of like pointing out faces going, okay, that's that person. now that they've got their name on it. And as I say that, I realise I'm actually on here as Coedpenmaen Community Church, like I represent the whole church. I don't know how that's happened, but there we are. But yeah, it was a challenge because I'm a people person. I work relationally. I like to know people, get to know people, be around people. So the first sort of two or so months was all completely online. And you're not getting feedback really. You're not getting anything that you'd usually get from a church congregation. But yeah, so when we did that first service that you came to, it was great because everyone now realized how tall I was, and everyone could now see that I was a real person, not just a head and shoulders. And then gradually, as the weeks pass by, you get to recognize people's faces. And obviously now in more recent times, we've been able to do a little bit more in terms of having tea and coffee together and things like that are good, because for the first, I don't know how many weeks, it was in, do the service, out, don't hang around. And that is difficult again, because when you go to a new church, it takes time to work out who the people are that are there, who key people are, who regulars are, who maybe, dare I say, the awkward people maybe, and all that kind of stuff. And you just got to gradually get used to that. And I think that takes a long time, even if you don't start during a pandemic. But when you start during a lockdown, it was certainly challenging. And I think now most people, and going to members meetings and things like that, means you start to realize who people are and what their roles are within the church and things like that. So yeah, certainly a real challenge. I can't say it was easy, but we much prefer being in person, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a warning on your website about how tall you are? Is that something people need to be aware of? That's a
great idea, actually.
Are you a freakishly tall person, or?
No, I'm just.
Oh, right, okay.
Laura's nodding.
He's a lot taller than us, so it's always awkward if Chris has led worship the previous week, and then I have to go and put the mic down about 3 foot, and it's just a bit like emasculating, really. But
I'm only 6'4", so it's not that tall. You're tall, aren't you, John? How tall are you?
I've never felt that I've been so tall I've had to warn people. Is it just a particularly short congregation? Is that what it is?
I think it was mostly because all they'd seen was this Zoom, so they'd just seen Ed. And at this point, we have no idea what's going on, how tall people are, anything like that. So it's when you actually see someone, it's actually quite a weird thing, because it was the same for me with other people, by the way. We'd been on Bible studies and prayer meetings where they were just on this screen, and all you see is a little face, and then you meet people, and it's quite a strange phenomenon, that where you've met someone and chatted to somebody online before you've seen them in person.
It is true, isn't it? Because people generally don't have like a tall face or a short face. They just have a face, don't they? Right. So it doesn't get. But we had something a couple of weeks ago where some people have joined the church through the lockdown, and I've met them on a Sunday, but with masks on. And then we sort of all went outside after church on Sunday morning, so we were just chatting in the lane, and they took their masks off, and they didn't look at all like I was expecting them to, because you've got like a mask face, haven't you? And then your face, it was quite odd. It nothing wrong with them, it wasn't like nothing wrong with it, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but just very different. So obviously the other thing that's kind of unique, I guess, about you guys as a team, and we've sort of mentioned it in passing, is just the age group of you guys, But for Chris to be the oldest, and you're what, 31, Chris? Yeah, it's quite unique in terms of church leadership, certainly in the UK and in Wales. So what kind of things do you think, in terms of strengths and weaknesses, do you find there are issues that come up around that? Are there added bonuses? How do you find it being a relatively young team together?
I think with anything, you've got pros and cons, don't you? So obviously, like Chris has said, we've been around in church for years, but maybe you can't just have 50 years of experience when you're only 30, if you know what I mean. So there's not as much time as other ministers might have of experience. But like Chris said, we've been around long enough in church and in church leadership for years, in one form or another, the three of us. So I think that's something people might look and say, oh, they haven't got enough experience, but others might say, no, they definitely have. And then you've got obviously Paul telling Timothy, you know, don't look anyone look down on you because you're young, but, you know, show people in the way you behave, in how you conduct yourselves, that, you know, and I think for the three of us, we just want to be faithful to the Lord at the end of the day. I think that's the important thing to remember. And I think we're grateful to the church, to the diaconate, in sort of trusting this young leadership team and the support and the prayers we get. And I think the other thing is for the three of us and for the church, it's a bit of an experiment in one sense, to be honest. We want to see how this works, how we can work together. You know, we're all very passionate and want to see people saved, and we want to see God glorified. And, you know, like Chris said, we're just giving it a go, and we're just using our gifts to the best of our abilities to serve the church. And that's it. So yeah, I suppose there's pros and cons for everything, but we're going to see how it goes. We're going to work hard. We're going to support each other. And ultimately, like Chris said earlier, if we want the glory of God, you can't really go too far wrong, because we're all, at the end of the day, that's our goal. So, yeah.
And I guess being kind of late 20s, early 30s, you kind of fit into that millennial generation, which people talk about for better or for worse. But I was having a little look, because I do fall into the generation, but I never really know the characteristics of it. But I was having a look before we joined, and some of these may apply to you, some may not, and you don't have to say. But it says for millennials, they tend to value motivation, have a short attention span, open and adaptive to change, passion for learning, and an intuitive knowledge for technology or of technology. So kind of falling into that bracket, would you say kind of being characteristically a millennial has benefited how you lead? Maybe not even in a church context, but generally how you would approach leadership?
Yeah, I think listen to those categories there. I don't think I fall very well into them. I'm just thinking about, oh, I don't know about that, because my attention span's not that short, believe it or not. I'm not bad for listening to people. But I think what that does show then, perhaps for me, is who we're reaching as well. So I think maybe a little bit of a different slant, I guess, on your question there, I suppose is for me, is kind of thinking, okay, well, who are we trying to reach? And I think because I belong to, I guess, to that generation, I'm sort of aware of what people are tuning into, what kind of things people are interested in, kind of what really, you know, what people are looking at on their phone. Like TikTok is so popular at the moment. It's just like 1 minute videos. You can be on it for ages. You know, if somebody said, oh, I watched, 50 videos today, you're thinking, what are you doing? Like normally, but it's just 1 minute long. You just flick through, and actually, what you can say in a minute is pretty good, really. Well, depending on what it is, because some of them you just think, oh, go home. But no, I think just being aware, I guess, of the people we're trying to reach in that generation, I guess adapting to that as well. And I'm not saying you go in the pulpit and make a 1 minute video and that's it, the end of the lesson. But I think just really thinking about, okay, well, how does our generation relate as well, and seeing how church can facilitate that as well. Because when we look at the ministry of Jesus, Jesus spoke in parables, which was how people did it in the day. That was a popular teaching method of the day. So it's kind of thinking, okay, well, how are they engaging, and how can we bring Jesus into this? Because it's reaching Jesus and reaching people with Jesus in all ways, really. And like Meiz said, if you've got a heart for the gospel, if you've got a heart for seeing lost people saved, the method can be anything, but it's changing the method to suit the person, not changing the message ever. The gospel is the gospel, always will be. But thinking, okay, well, how can we change this sort of man-made, I guess, approach into reaching a lost generation here? I think that's really important as well, kind of knowing your audience as well. So I think, but then again, you've got other generations, not millennials, who perhaps don't know Jesus as well. So it's then listening, and I think that's really important, because we don't have all the years of experience. We haven't had a lot of life experience, and so then it's kind of going to our older members of the congregation, going to those wise mentors and saying, okay, well, how did you deal with this? Have you dealt with this before? And kind of really listening, and then thinking about, okay, well, what does this age generation, this age group like, and kind of thinking about how to relate to them as well. So I think it's just about listening to the congregation, listening to wider society, and really thinking, okay, how can we bring Jesus into this situation? But I think, whether you're millennial or whether you're not, I think that's a good practice for anybody at any age, wherever you are in ministry, just, really listening to the people and bringing Jesus into the situations.
Yeah, definitely. I recently fell into Marvel TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how it happened, but I got into the algorithm and I couldn't get out.
You couldn't get out. Oh,
I was in there for a while.
The rabbit hole.
I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
wasn't complaining, but it took a while to break out to the algorithm.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I guess in some ways, the fact that you guys would fall into the millennial sort of age bracket, like you're saying, Laura, this is what ministry is trying to listen to the context and then speak into that. It's been incarnational, isn't it? Yeah, using the language. But I guess being part of what is often described as a missing generation, it kind of you've got a fast track to understanding the culture, and so it helps to be more specific, doesn't it? So you're not just talking about certain types of TV shows. You can mention the TV show that you want to talk about, and I think that kind of thing has got to be an advantage, hasn't it? And in terms of reaching that generation.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think, was it the last Sunday night chat we did? We were
Love Island.
We were discussing should Christians watch Love Island, and that had loads of views. So you are right in saying that when you speak into something that is sort of a hot cultural topic, people are like, oh, I wonder what the church has got to say about that. And obviously it did hit a nerve with people. Some people disagreed. Some people were like, oh, how dare you say I shouldn't watch this? Or some people might say, oh, I could definitely watch. It is different opinion, but it is that, what are people engaging with, and how can you use this to really get to what we believe? And actually, we did see that people were interested when you're talking about what they're doing anyway. But obviously, you want to make sure that you're not compromising on the word of God to reach a generation, but you're also looking at what the culture is doing to be able to speak the word of God into that culture, if you know what I mean. So it's trying to balance those things as well, which is another advantage of the team dynamic that we have, I think, is that you've got a natural accountability, and we have such a good relationship that we can challenge each other and say, is that a good idea? Should we go that far? And we tend to, between the three of us, balance that out to really find what would work best, both staying biblically, but also culturally. And I think between the three of us, that works itself out really well. And that's something I've really enjoyed in this dynamic.
That sounds really good, because I think there are those moments, aren't there, when all of us wonder, should I be watching this, or is this too much? And I'm not a Love Island fan, so I'm not responding specifically to that, but and just to air the question, give room for that question. And then the other interesting thing that you guys said earlier was about sometimes there's sort of disagreement in the conversation. And I don't know, that just feels to me like that's really important, because there is a range of responses to all these questions. There's a range of things that the Christians believe on certain topics. And so to disagree well, I think, is a really important thing, because often, when things do spiral into conversation online, it's usually quite sort of polar opposites, isn't it? Just having a go at each other, and they never move their position. It's just like they're stating it, and that's it. And even typing in capital letters and all the rest of it. And I think to model a different way of disagreeing about important topics at a time when the culture can be so divided over certain issues, is actually a really significant thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think it kind of fits into what you were saying earlier, Laura, as well, about kind of taking the church out of the building. And actually, by move into online or just approaching these topics, you kind of open up a space where people can ask questions, whether it is about Love Island, whether they have other questions that by watching that video they were able to ask. And you don't have to, in some ways it's not really our place to be like, this is correct and this is incorrect, but actually just allowing that space for people to be able to ask those questions, even if it is behind a screen, because sometimes that's the little confidence boost you need, is to be like, well, I'm not asking this face to face, maybe I can like ask them this question. And yeah, like I said, maybe it is about Love Island, or maybe it's other questions that, because you had the Love Island conversation, they know that like they can kind of trust you and then ask other questions they might have been struggling with for a while. Yeah, and I think I've said on a previous episode that like as someone who kind of pre-Jesus then was kind of quite anxious, having kind of that online space where I could have asked questions and like absorbed in a way where I didn't have to walk into a building, because some people that might be too much for them, I think is really important. And I listened to a few of your Sunday night chats as well, and they were very insightful. So I didn't listen to the Love Island one though, so I might go back and watch that one. I'm intrigued now, so I'll go back and watch it. But you've been doing so much kind of over the past 7 months, I think you said, since you've all been working together online and now moving back into in-person. And hopefully this is just the beginning of what you're all doing at Coedpenmaen. But what do you think is next, or what have you got up and coming for your church and your ministries? Do you have any plans coming up?
Well, Meiz is appearing on the next series of Love Island, so that's exciting.
And Laura's going to be on the X Factor. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just need a show for myself now. But yeah, that was the outcome of the Love Island chat, was that Meiz applied and he got on. So
and Chris is going to be in the Amazon series of The Hobbit. So it's all working out well.
Yes. Oh, I'd love that. That'd be amazing. Yeah, typical millennial, my attention span. What was the question again? It was something about what's happening next, was it?
Yeah, what's happening next?
Yeah, like what's next? Yeah.
I'm the opposite of Laura. I don't know where Meiz falls on this, but attention span, yeah, it's a struggle. I think they say it's your age plus one or something, isn't it? Like seconds before that's what I've heard anyway, that's how long you can have your attention as a millennial. It's your age plus one, so what's that, 32 seconds, and then I'm gone.
And then you're thinking, where's that washing machine?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, well, I'll start. So next Sunday night, we're starting something new called Refresh. It's a new Sunday night service. I'm not sure if you're coming to media, but I know that Alice and Naz are, and a few others. And that basically is a 7:30 till I think around 9:30-ish. We'll see how it goes. Service where we've not put a specific age on it. We haven't said you can't come if you're as old as John, for example. But what we've said is it's going to be more contemporary, more modern style worship, I guess. And we want to see younger people coming to church. However young is up to the young people. And there's no doubt there'll be people that come that wouldn't be classed as young. But the idea being that there'll be, worship that's a little more modern, a message that relates to today's culture, like what Meiz was saying, absolutely biblically based, but reaching into this culture today. And then following up then from around 8:30 with our Sunday night chat that we were doing online. We're going to do that live in the building. So we're really hoping and praying that leads to people coming in to hear about these topics, whatever they may be. And the aim is that we do go for some hard-hitting topics that make people go, I would love to know what the church thinks about that. So prayers into that, because obviously it puts you in a vulnerable place, no doubt. And it will still be online, so it will still be available on Facebook Live as well. But that's something that we've got coming up in the immediate, as in a week on Sunday, the 26th of September. So anybody that you might think might be interested in that, we'd love them to come along. It's something that we want to invite other churches to, and people that maybe don't share our faith to. So that's Refresh, and it starts a week on Sunday. It'll be every Sunday night at Coedpenmaen from 7:30 onwards, and we'll have refreshments and stuff there too, so it should be good fun.
Nice little plug there for the event. Just not an ad.
That's what always happens on whenever you see like a live, like a Parkinson's or whatever, whatever these TV shows are. they're always on there to promote their book or promote like the next TV film or whatever. So, I thought that's what we were on for. It's not. Is it?
This episode is sponsored by Coedpenmaen. In terms of the online sort of the stuff and trying to communicate and build community, is there anything that you were hoping to do or are hoping to do that you haven't tried yet, as a way of reaching into that community? Laura, you mentioned sort of TikTok is a really popular sort of medium at the minute, but are there things that you're really hoping to explore?
I don't know if there's any immediate plans, but one thing we will be doing, so we're having the Sunday night service, and then after the Sunday night service, so it'll be a late night, but it'll be fun. We're going to start back Sunday night chat, but from the building, and we will be streaming that again. So the people who really enjoyed that format, the people who really enjoyed those conversations and being able to comment and join in with that, we're going to start that space again. The only difference will be, rather than us being on Zoom, we'll actually be in the building having the discussion there, but then people can obviously join in the comments online. So I'm really looking forward to restarting that back up. I'm sure the guys are as well, because we like having these discussions and hearing people's opinions and sort of speaking into that. So that's really the main thing at the minute, is getting that back up and running, because we did see a lot of success from that, and people really enjoyed it. And the good thing is people can join, you know, we got people like one lady in Plymouth who watched every week, and, you know, people in America are watching, you know, like it's great because you can reach that wider community. So we want to do that, but also focusing on the needs of the church community, of the people who maybe aren't online, making sure that they are cared for and looked after as well. So it's trying to balance everything really. And I think that is church leadership, isn't it? Is trying to balance the needs of everyone in the church, which sometimes is a challenge, but, you know, again, with the team leadership, we're able to do that, to help each other in that as well, and to help the church, hopefully.
I guess now you kind of need, is it a Venn diagram with like the two circles and they kind of overlap? Is that the right name for it? Yeah, I can kind of see that happening now with like churches now as we're moving forward. It's like you've got the online and you've got the in-person. It's kind of finding that space where they kind of overlap in the middle. And yeah, I think that the Sunday night chats sound really good, and to be able to do it both in person, where, you know, you can have more of, it kind of seems more personal obviously when you're in person, but yeah, then you're not isolating kind of the online and the people who are, like you said, whether they're in Plymouth or whether they just prefer the onlineness of it all, then yeah. And I think that's a really good idea with a refresh, because I know you're super close to University of South Wales as well, so to be able to have kind of that space where young people can come, I think will be super encouraging, and hopefully we'll see some people from there coming as well. And I will be there, by the way. Just
good.
I really like what you said there, Amelia, about like the Venn diagram with, you've got, you know, kind of the church, being in the church building and being online, and that kind of in the middle part. And I think what would be really disappointing, I guess, for churches now, if they sort of went, oh great, we can open back up, so this online stuff we don't need to do anymore, and just stick, because actually, like I said earlier, you've got the churches going out. Even if it's online, it's still going out, and the fact you've got both and you've got the two, I think is really good. I prefer being in person, but actually the online stuff is perfect for, you know, for reaching people, and I think churches should continue that. So whether that's, you know, streaming a service, whatever that may be, I suppose there is that threat that it could, you know, kind of people might prefer sitting in their pajamas and watching it, but I think I don't think so in the long run. I think people will come back. But yeah, just having that balance, because we've, you know, one of the big things to come out of lockdown, I guess, is that kind of online and physical thing. So yeah, it would be a shame, I think, if churches kind of went back and said, all right, we'll just scrap all the stuff we've done, and kind of, because I think there's so many lessons that people have learned from it. And I think it would be a shame if, you know, went back to how it was before, but just keeping those two, I think, holding them in contention with each other, I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think we use the word community. We talk about sort of online, and this isn't just a millennium thing. Millennial, I can't even say the word. It isn't just that at all. I think, you know, groups do form online in all kinds of ways and places, some of them healthier than others, of course, but that's true of online or in person, that can be deeply meaningful for people, you know, and for those that have found it, and not everyone has, but for those who have found it a really deeply meaningful way to engage with faith, like you say, it'd be a real shame to go, yeah, but we don't have to do that now, so we're not going to anymore. Definitely.
And when you think of how like God has used the stuff the churches have been putting online, you can't kind of disregard that it's not just like an algorithm, or it's not just that's the way social media works. That is so clear in so many different stories and testimonies that God has been working through the things that have been putting online, and kind of as churches step out to maybe something they don't know much about, kind of step out of the traditional sense of what church used to look like. God is, I think, encouraging churches to do that, because, you know, you read all through the Bible, it was never about what the temple looked like, or it was never about the temple itself, but what happened, the people that were there, and what happened when people gathered. So, you know, whether that's in person, whether that's online, like you said, we can't disregard or just stop doing it, because so much has happened by stepping out over the past year and a half that, yeah, it can't be that's it. Like, surely there's more that God can do through this. Yeah, and kind of just got to keep the momentum going of that, and however God calls us to do it, to continue to kind of step out and do that. It all kind of seems like a massive big experiment. Like, I never thought I'd do live streams, let alone like church live streams. Like, I just never thought it'd be something I'd be doing, but I've done multiple, and I'm sure there's many things like we've all done over the past year and a half that we never thought we'd be doing, but somehow like we're doing it and God is working through it. So yeah, I think you've got a really good balance going forward, and yeah, hoping and praying that you see fruit from that as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how you guys sort of feel, but I, early on, when like we just launched into this online church experiment that we didn't know was coming, it was like everything was new. And I think there's something in those sort of seasons of life where you are really leaning into God. You know, it's like there's so much you don't know, and so you're praying more, you're preparing more, all that kind of stuff. And then even that rhythm then becomes a routine. And so, yeah, you get used to stuff, you get skilled up in areas, you get tooled up in other areas, and you can lean more then on your own experience of it than into God and on his provision. And I almost miss the early days of, I'm talking like nostalgically, like it was ages ago, it wasn't that long ago, was it? But I almost miss those early days of going, is it going to work? You know, is anybody watching? Is the camera, you know, going to balance on my bike and all the rest of it, because there was something so there's a real partnership between us and God then, and whatever happens going forward, that's something that I want to carry forward, is that let's keep pushing it to a place where we have to depend on him, where we are clinging onto him.
I think the same could be said, which is something that I felt, I'm sure we all have, is that going back then to church, like you say, when we went online first, it was like new, and like it was this is a little bit exciting because we don't know, but going back to church then, it was like when we could finally sing together, it was like it brought a tear to my eye because it'd been so long, and you just realize this is what we're made for. But I think we can take that sort of thing for granted, you know, that we get to freely go to church and worship God together and like lift our voices together. So I just hope that through this difficult time that it will make us as the church, you know, the church at large, just be grateful for what the amazing privilege we have in worshiping God in freedom and being able to sing together. And it's something that I certainly am not taking for granted, whereas maybe before, and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to go and we're going to sing for a little bit and then we're going to do, it's like, no, we're going to worship God together. How powerful that is to be able to sing his praises together. And there's just those little things that maybe we may have taken for granted, like we realize we can't anymore. So I do hope that there'll be that extra passion and sort of desire to go and worship God, because we now know what it's like to not be able to do that. And it was awful. So I think in this new season, it's quite exciting for the church to really grow and to just regain that fire that we need. So it is exciting in that sense.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, guys, it's been so great to chat to you. It's been really, really good to talk. Yeah, really, really lovely. Nice to meet you all properly and have a chance to chat properly. So, Chris, you've got your washing machine. That did arrive?
Yeah, it did. It all seems to have gone smooth, and a dryer. I can wash my clothes again now.
Did the electrician sort it all out for you?
Yeah, what an absolute legend.
Look at that. What's his name? Let's put in a plug for the electrician. What's his name?
Greg.
Greg, the electrician.
Yeah, just
find him on
Google. He's been great, to be fair. Interestingly, I know we're done, but it was great talking about surprising people, I guess, with what we do. Just earlier we were chatting and he just said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm training to become an accredited pastor." That leads to all sorts of great conversations, that does.
Yeah.
Like it just shocks people, I guess, because it's not the normal to see somebody, I guess, of a younger age doing that. And but that's good, it's great, and it's people give you such an inquisitive and they genuinely want to know more about it, I think that's great. He's also a great electrician.
Was he not expecting somebody so tall to go into such a small church?
That must be what it is. Yeah, I didn't expect someone of your height to do that.
I thought you'd be playing like a wizard in Lord of the Rings or something.
It's my dream. I'd love to. Gandalf one day. When they do Lord of the Rings the musical, I've already started writing it. So if nobody else does it, I will do it myself. I've written "You Shall Not Pass" as a song, and I will be Gandalf, and I will sing that song. Can you imagine?
Do it.
Have you actually written it as it?
Well, not officially, but you know.
I've not written it down.
Not written it down. Can you imagine though, Lord of the Rings the musical, as if that wouldn't go worldwide viral.
I feel like there is a Lord of the Rings the musical.
Don't ruin my dreams, John.
Okay, then it was only a hunch.
Carry on writing, Chris. Carry on writing and fine. I'll help you if you want.
You know, sorry, we're massively going off track, but oh well.
It's always like chat in a nutshell, isn't it? We can
yeah.
You know, like on Les Miserables when they sing that song 24601, and he's like 24601. That's how I imagine. You shall not pass. One day.
All right. Okay. You can't just nick other tunes and other people's words. That's not writing a song. Trying to save you some rather expensive legal fees.
Yeah. We'll work something out.
Well, I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, so you've already sold one ticket. I'm in.
Yeah. They're the greatest films of all time.
I agreed. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hobbit.
Yeah, same. Yeah, good, but not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Awesome. We could probably stop recording now, couldn't we?
You've been listening to Team Talk, a new podcast series from the South Wales Baptist Association.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Find us on Facebook, YouTube or Instagram.
And for more information, check out swba.org.uk/Team Talk. Thanks for listening.